Good morning. So, just figured I'd make a short video just showing something. I actually implemented this a number of months back, but recently cleaned it up a little bit. The concept of auto-saving data. So I came up again today in a topic with the client work. How can I auto-save this, add people type, etc. That was with WordPress. There's some caveats there. Even in my framework, there were some caveats until I implemented a way to basically automate it by just a setting. So if I go into the admin, I need to authenticate because I'm using Cloudflare Access to lock down my admin. There we go. So an example would be I have one set up as a page. You see this nice, well, terrible title. So here's a simple page in the admin. Right now, when I click around in it, it's not auto-saving, so in traditional behavior, I had to hit update. Yeah, that's fine, nothing special. Side note, I can also type and just do Control S, by Command S on Mac. So that saves, that has a nice little update feature to let you know that it happened. So that's intentional saving. But let's say I want to just save as I type so that I don't ever have to think about it. It's kind of like Google Drive mentality. So I have other projects in here, but I pulled up my framework that the beta is running off of there. Let's see. Library config. So the configuration has all the different miscellaneous details in it. And if I go to core and look at the core config, I can see what are all the fallbacks. Now, if you're ever wondering what the difference is, the core config has fallbacks. And so anything from the fallbacks, if I take it out and I put it into the primary config, it'll use my primary config instead. So in this one, for instance, in the core config, if I look for autosave, autosave enable post types. Cool. Go back to the core config, I see nothing is in here yet. So if I put this one in here and say I want to enable autosaving for pages. Now I don't necessarily want to do it everywhere because, without testing that, there's probably use cases where it might break something, might not work as expected. And, I'd rather know what I'm doing and do it selectively. Do not get yourself in trouble. But I guess you could make it actually grab every single post type and loop through every single one and add them to this list if you really wanted. Actually, let me do a quick search. Where does this work behind the scenes? Okay, yeah, it checks each one. So now that I added that, let's actually go over to the page again. I just reloaded it to have default behavior. So let's see, as I type, nothing happened. But if I change the line, it triggers change on it. And you'll see in the bottom left corner, autosave successful. And that's really all there is to it. Same thing if I change any of the other fields, autosave successful. Change that back to published. So as I do anything, it's auto-saving on the fly, just like if you're working with Google Drive, it changes those settings out. Yeah. And similar thing is on the front end of the site, there is a management section. Now you have to enable certain things for them to ever show up here in the first place, but I can manage pages on the front end as well. However, I didn't want to assume that your front end controls, because the front end admin, I guess the front end management section is decoupled from the admin. So instead of just doing it across the board everywhere, there is actually a separate controller for that. Now, if you're curious what that is, if I go to the core, the plugins, the manage plugin, and go to under setup, you will see, here we go. There is this one, the manage autosave enable post types. Now, in general, I could copy paste that here. The only difference is that since when setting up the plugin, it's technically running as a filter. When I bring it over to the config here, it's not a filter, it's just a one-off reference, so I need to get rid of the values that come through from the filter. If you ever want to know more about that, shoot me a message, I can explain the difference. But, so there's an example of how that would be set up. It's almost the exact same thing, just obviously a different name of that config. And so I save that, set that to page. So now when I go back over here and go to the management section with autosave, I can do the same thing. If I ever change anything, I swear it's changing. It's possible that I made some CSS changes recently that just might not be showing up the change. But yeah, that's all you had to do is just add that option in the config, and then the site would be using that as well. And that's all there is. Auto-saving then works using either the admin or the front end, and so then if you ever need to work on these things and edit them, and like someone's like, can you make it so it always does these in these different use cases? There you go. And the other option is like if you're like, yeah, but I need it to only exist on a few items, not everything. Instead of just setting it to be this option everywhere, you could actually, since none of these are just like just simple variables, they're all obviously methods that are running, you could actually write some logic like, only do it if we know we're on page 132. And if we're on page 132, return true for pages, else return nothing. Just a thought if you ever need to get more granular in functionality. But generally, you're just going to turn it on for every page and call it a day. I guess in theory, you could turn it on for users as well by something like that, where you'd be like, turn it on for users where their ID is 1 or their access level is an admin or something like that. So you could also have that kind of control there. But that's where the power to having that flexibility comes in. But yeah, if you ever want to add auto-saving, that's how you do it.